And so at the early level, if we had a cross-curricular curriculum throughout the country that was culturally relevant as well, teaching diurnally, where everything is integrated so that all children can have an opportunity to grasp concepts, practice the reading in this class, and so they can see you have to have reading skills in all of your classes. It's not just in reading class you need this, and a lot of them don't get it. And when I get them in my class, they'll say, Ms. Worley, is this science class or history class? I'm really confused because they haven't been taught that way. And at the end of the year, they thoroughly understand how everything really is one and how everything in history is there in history because of science, some type of scientific idea or concept, whether it's migration or adaptation or evolution or whatever, gems or whatever, natural resources. Everything that has happened in history is because of science. And so when children understand it, they can see the whys. Why would these people fight over this oil? Why is it so important to have, they get it once it's all taught together. So what I'm seeing now is children who have been totally miseducated, totally. They don't get it, they don't see the connections. Now we can get them back on track so that it's not hopeless, but they've definitely not seen themselves in the curriculum. They've definitely been taught that they are not significant in this country, in this world, and they're not being taught the way that their minds conceptualize knowledge.
Larry, I can tell you're just chomping at the bit.
I have two thoughts. One is I think you should resist the demand that they're putting on you, partly, but I have another explanation for how it's happening. If you ask the high school people what they would like to have happen more than anything else, it would be that the middle school people would get them ready for high school. And you ask the middle school people what they want them to get them ready, and then what that getting ready means is compartmentalizing the learning. Pretty soon we're going to be down to genetic counseling. Pretty soon we're going to say, you shouldn't marry this woman because you're going to have children who are not going to be very good at math. Or the compartmentalization is part of the problem because it does destroy the whole, the vision of the whole kind of. The other thing that a story that I'd like to share, we all, as we work as consultants and people that work in schools, we all have our favorite students, so to speak. But one of my favorite stories to tell is that I was involved from the very beginning, now about 12 years ago, in Clark County, Nevada, in Las Vegas, with creating the Visual and Performing Arts High School, a magnet high school there. The thing that, I said it again, Visual and Performing Arts. And in the first 10 years of its existence, it was the highest performing high school in the state of Nevada in math and science. Now, tell me about right brain, left brain, no brain, and the integration of that. But the reason I think that works is because they did it by keeping it together and seeing the connections. The connections are the powerful piece of it.
And I just want to add that ties into culturally relevant teaching, understanding the epistemological styles of different cultures around the world. And children of African and Latina descent, some of their epistemological styles are visual learning, rhythm, seeing the whole first, and kinesthetic, art. When you apply all of that and teach from a cross-curricular perspective, they get it. It's like magic. Wow. So it's wonderful. So I like that you used that example. Thank you.
Marjorie, did you have anything to add to that?
I think that was a great answer.
Great. All right, another question. Yes.
I think that Larry put it most clearly that you're talking about a change in the system of teaching and learning. And it seems to me that this comment has implications for professional development for teachers, for schools, principals, business, settling across to this.
Okay, the question is that there's a shift in the emphasis from teaching to learning, and there will be an implication for professional development. And what are the costs, and how will that be handled? What's your take on that, Larry?
I think there is going to be a cost. I think we have to get to it. I don't know how long it will take the teacher preparation programs to tip. I don't know whether we're close to the tipping point or not. I don't think we are. I think we're a long way from it. So I think we're going to have to carry it on the backs of the K-12 practitioners themselves. But one of the things that does suggest, if you are going to try to build staff development around a learning-centered system, then the profound knowledge, as I alluded to in the quick comments, is going to be to look at the best we know about human learning. Interestingly enough, if you go in that direction, you're going to find some of the most useful information to inform the work that's going to come from places that you don't usually look. Like one of the places over the years, probably the last 30 years, has been the U.S. Naval Academy, U.S. Naval Research Academy, U.S. Naval Research Center. The reason for that is, if you think about the military centers are good places to look for ideas and strategies and principles for how to organize for learning, is because the military has never been interested in teaching in the first instance. The military is always interested in learning for the first instance. When I fly back to Michigan this afternoon, when I get on the plane, my first questions are not what kind of teacher the pilot had. My first questions are, did he or she learn what they needed to know and be able to do to get me from here to there? So the idea is, when you start doing that, and Robert Gagne, many of you will remember Gagne's work, he was the director of the Naval Center for a number of years, and he wrote the book way back in the first edition in the 60s called The Conditions of Learning. We ought to drag that. It's been edited, edition after edition. But that ought to be one of the principles that, at least the filters through which you start dropping any ideas about new materials, new formats, because do they conform to the principles of human learning? There are only about a dozen principles, but if you don't pay attention to those, you're not moving, it seems to me, to where the future is relative to what we've been talking about here. And I would think that that would be a good set of guidelines to help developers and publishers like yourselves.
Frank has been patiently waiting.
No teacher would ever have said that about me.